After highlighting the key verse, verse 3, "Beloved, while I was making every effort to write to you about our common salvation, I felt the necessity, the urgency, to write to you, appealing that you contend earnestly for the faith which was once for all handed down to the saints." Then verse 4 tells us why it's so important to contend for that faith. Verse 4. "For certain persons have crept in unnoticed, those who were long beforehand marked out for this condemnation, ungodly persons who turn the grace of our God into licentiousness and deny our only Master and Lord, Jesus Christ." At this point, our friend Timothy must have missed a couple of sermons or lessons, or maybe he fell asleep like people do in our church, because he has left no notes for us between verses 3 to 17. So I'll just note some highlights. Verse 4 mentions that these persons who were a threat to the faith were long beforehand marked out for this condemnation. As uncomfortable as some people become with the idea that God elected his people from before the foundation of the world, they are even more uncomfortable with the idea that some were marked out for condemnation. But here it is, like it or not. Jude goes on to describe them in very unflattering terms. Here's verse 8. "In the same way, these men also, by dreaming, defile the flesh, reject authority, revile angelic majesties." Here's verse 10 through 13. "But these men revile the things which they do not understand, and the things which they know by instinct, like unreasoning animals, by these things they are destroyed. Woe to them, for they have gone the way of Cain, and for pay they have rushed headlong into the error of Balaam, and perished in the rebellion of Korah." And now Jude breaks into some very poetic language. "These are the men who are hidden reefs in your love feasts, when they feast with you without fear, caring for themselves. Clouds without water, carried along by winds. Autumn trees without fruit, doubly dead, uprooted. Wild waves of the sea, casting up their own shame like foam. Wandering stars, for whom the black darkness has been reserved forever." And verse 16. "These are grumblers, finding fault, following after their own lusts. They speak arrogantly, flattering people for the sake of gaining an advantage." Wow. In the verses that I skipped over, Jude mentions the exodus of the children of Israel out of Egypt. He mentions Sodom and Gomorrah, speaks about angels. He mentions Adam, Cain, Enoch, and Balaam. Jude believes in the historicity of these people and events, and we should too. Jude believes in the reality of judgment, and we should too.